Hey everybody, welcome to the GMG Indie Hour. It's episode 30. We're like the 40th game we reviewed. We used to do 2 of these in a day. And as this became more popular, that became impossible. But now we're doing one at a time. We're already at episode 30. I think the first 10 were double episodes. So we're creeping up on probably 50-ish games. It might be like the first 10 or 12 were double episodes. So creeping up on getting close to 50 games now that we've done reviews for. And this is the most recent one as picked by GMG patrons, FLAMES of Orion. This is a sort of miniature agnostic mecha game in that dark, grim, grimy #28 style. Now, if you're not familiar with this show, we cast the spotlight on small press, independent, and self-published games you might not have heard of. Trying to kind of put a light on the idea that, you know, your miniatures, the rule book that your miniatures are sculpted for isn't the only thing you can do with them. And your toy soldier collection, if your army becomes invalidated, or if somebody, you know, decides that your rules of your codex have changed, you can still use those miniatures for other things. And this game is proof in the pudding of that. So Flames of Orion, give you guys a little overview here, is the creation of Stephen Hupfer and Under the Dice, which is an underground gaming and hobby fanzine. If you're a punk fan or an indie music fan, zines are part of your life. They're part of the culture of doing zines. And Under the Dice sort of is aspiring to be that for the indie gaming and underground gaming culture. And this is their game. It is, so 2 things that you should know about this in the beginning. It uses a black and white pen and ink art style, very reminiscent of like 80s and 90s tabletop miniature games, RPGs and war games, which I love. This mech, for instance, is illustrated by Nico Lucido, and has a free PDF rulebook that you can download right here off the website if you want to grab it. Now, it has just recently, back in May, been crowdfunded. Steven successfully, I think, raised like 30K, 35K, like Canadian. And got his book in print. He did a limited pressing of 100 copies for Adepticon 2025, and he sold out. And then he's done 3 versions, either the PDF version, the Flames of Orion version, which is just I think it's a saddle bound, and then a field manual edition, which is spiral bound and features like a cool, there's a picture of it down here at the bottom, a cool kind of like manila style. It's like a military field manual, basically. And it's in this cool style. Very, I was going to say Aliens universe, right? Where everything is like old. They're working with like, you know, weird punch printouts and stuff like that. It's very grimy space truckery. And obviously the vibe of this is that 80s and 90s hard sci-fi, but with like a grimdark feel. So, it's miniature agnostic, plays on 2x2 table, 4 or more models. You can swap out individual models in your mech bay for things like multiple vehicles or infantry and stuff like that if you want to use other types of miniatures. And the goal here is to kit bash any robots you want. And there's obviously a million different scales and a million different mechs. Any 6 mil or 2 inch tall Flames of Orion mechs will work. Examples of that would be things like they've made their own, which are available from, this is from the Garden of Hecate. They've been sculpted, and I believe picture painted by Evan Hugh. Yeah, I think Gardens of Hecate is the one that sculpted these. And they're available from Ramshackle Games. But they also recommend things like Reaper Cav. There are a million places to get cool mechs. Cav mechs would work great for this, which have kind of that same kind of grimdark aesthetic and have some cool things like the Simba, the big Guerrilla mech right here, the Gnomic, the Archer, right? All of these are very familiar, but they also do ground vehicles. So there's ground vehicles for Cavs. So if you're looking for like a cheap place, you can just go right to Reaper and get all the miniatures you need to play this game almost right away. But if you're in Canada, you can also check out Heavy Gear miniatures. These are actually all in hard styrene and plastic. These are just one of the different collections of hard styrene and plastic. I really like the Heavy Gear miniatures, and I figured I'd shout out a Canadian company because why not? Look at how cool these are. Plastics on a sprue. And you get something that's local here if you want to shop local in Canada to all my Canadian folks. So let's dive in and take a look at the rulebook, because the rulebook obviously is the meat and potatoes of what we're talking about today. And it is, I think, about 60 pages. This PDF, all in black and white, easily printable. I just actually printed off my copy. Yeah, and lovingly illustrated in the same. I love a black and white rulebook. I love black and white line art. I love the art for this game. This is if you're trying to set a mood, you know what I mean? The idea here is that the Star of Orion in this system is dying. That means civilization is basically going out with it. And you represented by one of the sort of 4 general overall factions. Mercenaries, megacorps, weird knights houses, and weird religious sects, and the Lost and the Damned, who are like the scum. So nice light narrative. You can kind of insert anything you else want into it. And I appreciate this. I get an idea of the atmosphere thing right here. So you can listen to some liquid drum and bass playing through a blown out speaker while the following plays in the background. So here's some songs. And then media, MechWarrior, Armored Core, Dark Souls, Pitch Black. Yeah, that makes sense. In the dark and distant future, the stars have smoldered and burned. Everything that once stood in the Orion sector has descended into madness. Those who have not fled the sector have gone mad from the emptiness around them. Now fight for what little remains. Blood is spilled over the meaningless. In a time when humanity should be united, they have become the greatest threat to themselves. Thus, the age of man has ended, and the age of the orc, left in the ashes of the flames of Orion. All the trudge forward into oblivion inside their mechanical tombs, and Age of Darkness has begun. I dropped in some Lord of the Rings there for a second. So you can see nice, quick, light core rule set. Goes to about page 36 here. And what do we need? So we need some models. Again, they're recommended all the same things. I think there's Battletech's also recommended in there. Battlefield 2x2 up to 4x4, depending on how big a game you want to play. Dice, you see some D6s for tracking your heat and hull points, and those are handy. RPG dice can be handy for like bigger things like heat, they say. So like if you have a set of D6s and some polyhedrals, you should be fine. D66 is obviously it's a D100 for D6s. So one's the numerator and one's the tens, one's the numbers. Tens, one's the I forgot the technical word for that. Tens and numerator, I think. Fuck, I don't know. Measurements are in inches, close token. And then just some kind of activated token so you can see what units have activated and which ones have not. Bunker and combat units. Your bunker is where you stash all your extra mechs, spare upgrades, credits, and loot between battles. You may have up to 10 units in your bunker at any time. Keep track of your territories, platforms, creds, and extra units here. So a very Necromunda style of setup for the game. Obviously, you're trying to survive in your like hideout bunker. You have your collection of shit that you can roll out to play a game with. So those 4 to 10 models can be a combination of mechs and ground units and all kinds of stuff. By default, a combat unit consists of 4 mechs, but you may choose to swap mechs for multiple smaller ground units. And then you get your stats, you get your hull points, and your armor. So hull points is how much your internals are. If you go to 0, you explode. Armor, it's your ability to shrug damage. For every 1 damage the unit suffers, they make a separate armor save. So every armor save you pass, basically, after you pull all the damage, you ignore that damage. It bounces off. Your combat skill, your speed, and then your heat limit, which is basically how hot you can run. Bigger mechs tend to run hotter and have less, like a heat ability, basically heat sink, whereas smaller mechs tend to be able to cool off faster. And then platforms, it's your hard points for all your guns. All mechs have 4 hard points, or platforms, sorry. There's 2 types, which are weapon and then upgrade. So you can see here, there's a show-off of the mech stats. So mechs cost 50 credits because you have space creds. Any good game set in space needs to have creds, right? Some kind of credit system. My favorite, and this is my absolute favorite credit system for sci-fi games, is calories. Because the rarest thing in the Grim Darkness of the Far Future, it's why there's corpse starch from 40k, is food, is nutrition, right? That's why they have to like mine their own dead basically for food. So whenever I see a credit system in a science fiction universe where people get paid in calories and they can spend their budget of calories to eat every day, I know it's truly grimdark. And that's taken from The Forever War by Joe Hadelman, which is a fantastic book. At one point he comes back from fighting in not the Forever War, Old Man's War. He comes back from fighting after a light speed jump, and time goes by super fast every time he goes and comes back. And he comes back, and they switched all currency to calories because the world's in a mass famine. So you get paid in calories, basically your calorie budget. It's kind of like Nick, that Time movie with what's his name in it, with Justin Timberlake, but for food. You didn't expect that sideways. It's been really fast. All right, game structure. Game of Flames of Orion is broken down into phases and rounds. We get the initiative phase. During this phase, it's a simple, like super simple core structure. You roll off, so who's going to go highest. Whoever activates their final model first adds plus the initiative roll each round. So you can double round people, but you get a slight advantage if you basically were the last person to activate. So like if you ran out of activations before your opponent, you get plus with the goes first next round. And then activation phase, everyone gets from 2 actions. You go model by model back and forth. And then heat phase, After all models have finished activating, every model must make a heat check based on whether or not you've run at your full heat or not. And then starting in initiative order, alternate rolling d6s back and forth, make heat checks for every model until they're all done, and then remove their activation tokens. So if you don't have to make a heat check, you just pull the token off. If you do, you make the check, pull the token off. And then retreat and surrender. At the start of the player's turn, they may retreat from battle and concede the game. If only one player remains, they are declared the winner. Games are 5 rounds, and everyone's split into 3 phases. Once they're all done, you go to the next round, and then phases are split into 3: initiative, activation phase, and heat phase. All right, so again, this is an action economy system. You can do up to 2 actions: move, attack, which is range or melee, disengage, or heat purge. So pretty simple actions. Certain units can't do certain things. Like for instance, if you're a tank, you don't usually have heats, you can't heat purge. And performing a second action generates a heat. You can perform actions in any order, and you can perform the same action twice. So you can shoot, but like it said, you get a heat if you do. You perform a bolstered action in place of a standard action. Bolstered actions generate a heat, and this is in addition to the heat gained from performing a second action. So you can overcharge your actions as well, and then apply heat after resolving all models in action. So bolstering is effectively overheating in this game. You can push yourself further. And I like this where like you basically have action, enhanced action, and whenever you perform a second action, it's just like you get a base heat. But on top of that, if you want to enhance your actions, you can take up to basically 3 heat per turn from just doing actions. So move, and then bolstered move. So a regular move is move your speed. Bolstered move is move up to your speed, and then choose one. Either make a free melee action or ram, someone within an inch. Move an extra 3 inches, or pause at any time to make a basic range attack. So I love this. Bolstering isn't a single effect. You can pick from a menu of effects whenever you make your action. This is a really clever mechanic for making heat management matter during the game. Range attack, same thing. Make a ranged weapon with your combat skill, or you can bolster it. Choose one, shoot all ranged weapons equipped to the model that have not previously fired this turn, and roll each attack separately, or make an attack with a single ranged weapon and add +1 to your CS, so +1 to hit. And then melee, target someone with an inch. Then bolstered, attack with all melee weapons not previously used, or make an attack with a melee weapon at +1 to hit. Or ram, if you have no melee weapons equipped, perform a ram, deal D3 damage to yourself and D3 damage to somebody else. So you can just spear somebody like Goldberg with your mech. Disengage, which is move a half speed. Then we make a free melee attack with a melee weapon. And then bolster disengage. You may move it of combat half speed. The enemy mech does not get a free disengage attack when you use a bolster disengage. So basically, it's like how much are you trying to evade, basically. How hard do you push the mech to evade? And then purge heat, remove D3 heat. And bolstered purge heat, remove 2 D3 heat. This must be the only action this turn. You don't gain heat for this action. So you can spend both actions to purge basically twice, and you don't get any heat at all. So like those are your core actions, just those 5 rather. Super easy to keep track of. Not like in any way hard to remember. Any special rules for movement? Vertical movement, models may move vertically onto or off of terrain. With the move action, additional move cost of the vertical distance. You can't move through enemies, but you can move through friendlies. And then combat, attackers must have true line of sight. Ranged melee attacks are resolved with a d6 roll. So you have to basically roll higher than your combat skill. 1s are always misses, 6 are a critical hit. The target then attempts an armor save for each point of damage that you do. And then if you get critical hits, you also will have an additional effect potentially. When you make a critical hit, roll another d6. If you meet or exceed your CS, roll 2d6 in the critical hit table. So basically, if you need a 5+ to hit and you get a 6, roll again. If you get a 5+, you've gotten an actual crit this time. It's gone through the armor. There's no armor save. And apply the results to target model. This is in addition to the +1 damage. All modifiers last until the end of the game. So like you're getting a big bonus here. Ammo explodes, deal D3 additional damage. If the model has special ammo, it's lost. Destroy a random platform, -1 its targeting system. Its heat threshold goes down. Deal damage to a random model within 3 with a ricochet. Close calls, just normal crit, +1 damage. And then leaking hydraulics, -1 to its speed. Compromise the armor. All models get armor penetration against this model. Oil burning, target the heat threshold reduced by 1. Another weapon destroyed. Or your pilot manages to pull the eject switch. Mech is out of action. Just cockpit destroyed. You're -1 hit for being at long range if you're over 10 inches. Cover, if you're in cover, it's +1 to its armor roll. And if you're within an inch, you're engaged. And then out of action, heat or exploding. So when a model loses its last hull point or it reaches or exceeds its heat limit, it's taken out of action. So you shut down if you overheat as well. When a model is taken out of action, it performs an explode check. The model is taken out of action or removed from the game after resolving their explode check, regardless of the result. So too much heat, performing a second action or any bolster action accrues a heat. Heat check. At the end of each round, roll a d6 for each model. Consult the heat check below. If a model reaches its heat limit, the reactor overheats and they're removed from the game immediately. The unit must also roll to see if it explodes. So you roll a heat check. On a 1, you gain 2 heat. On a 2 to 4, you gain 1 heat. On a 5, 6, you gain no heat. But you can always accumulate heat just by going about your day, basically. And you don't want to hit your heat limit because then you blow. And the idea there is if you flirt with getting close to your heat limit during your actions during the turn, you're going to start to get a chance of maybe just blowing your heat check and shutting down. And then the explode check. If you lose your last hull point or you hit your heat limit, roll a d6. On a 1 or 2, the model simply shuts down. On a 3 to 6, the model explodes. So it's more likely to explode than not. And then based on its current heat, the radius of the damage could basically be your current heat. And then the damage is 1 d3, 3 or 2 d3 if you had 10 or more heat. And the damage explosion depends on the heat level, and train blocks the explosive damage, so it just absorbs it. That's it. Those are your core mechanics. So real simple core mechanics. It's only about 6 pages. And then we go to ways to play. So now we understand the core. What are we going to do? There's quick play, which is just you get 4 and you spend 25 credits on rerolls or save it for later. To make a quick play combat unit for each of your 4 platforms, choose between a ranged weapon, a melee weapon, or an upgrade, then roll in the appropriate table on page 20 to 22. You may spend 20 credits to reroll one of the results, but based on your randomly generating weapons, and then roll randomly or choose a call sign for your unit for your names. You may swap a mech for 2 ground forces without paying any cost and roll for the swapped platform value. And then veteran mode, you start with 4 free mechs in their bunker and 200 credits to spend an equipment and extra units. To make your combat unit, choose a faction, purchase platforms and ammo, swap for extra ground forces, swapping for a mech ground force is not free, give each model a call sign, and then name your combat unit. So I'm going to do this next week on the Monday show. So if you're hanging out with me on the Monday show, we're going to sit down and we're going to actually build a faction for this game because I've got games of this coming up with Tyler, who has also played 2 other games from this series with me, Throne Odyssey and now 1490 Doom, which you'll see coming up on Tuesdays. We got a cool random call sign generator. So sometimes it's like I like that 1/1 is a color. So just pick a color. So it could be like blue steel or red angel or green tank. And so you're just going to roll D66, which is 1 across the top, 1 across the bottom. So you can have like Relentless Reaver or Night Ghost or Pain Scout. So I'm going to roll up some names for my mechs. I'm going to roll my names for mechs before we build them because that's going to give me the idea for how I'm going to build them. I think that's a fun idea. We have our factions. They all get a different bonus, and they also get listening bonuses, which I think is fantastic. So Mercs want you to listen to either Master Killer by Marauder or Zeroed by Bolt Thrower. Megacorps are Hell March 2 by Frank Klepacki or Call It War by Eyes of the Lord. And they get bonuses. So the faction bonus for mercenaries is no more heroes. Starting combat units gain free platform from a category of their choice. And then forced labor. Starting combat units gain a free infantry unit with a light weapon to deploy every game. Just forced labor. In addition to the regular units, you just get free infantry. You can't purchase any equipment for it, or you can purchase different equipment for it. Religious sects and noble houses. They've got Rebirth Protocol by Vane or Angry Mob Justice by the Acadia strain. And then the Lost and the Damned have Be Harder by God's Hate or Never Stops Raining by Foundation. And I love the fact that there's music listening ideas in here. It makes me so happy. And then the faction bonus is Another Heaven. Starting combat units gain 30 extra credits. And the faction bonus for the Lost and the Damned is Strength Through Suffering. The first time a model from this combat is destroyed, give 1 model +1 CS for its next activation. So basically when they see people die, they fight harder. And then we have our building stuff. So obviously credits, not calories, but I'm going to call them calories. My universe is going to be darker than this. I'm going to get paid in food. And then the scrapyard, you can sell stuff for half price. Keywords, position compromised. Any model gains +1 CS on its next activation for targeting a model affected by position compromised. Remove it after attack. So this is a little like thing you can have as like a keyword for your weapon. And then armor penetration. Reduce armor save by 1. If the unit gains multiple AP from platforms or effects of ammo, they stack. So like if you have a 4+ save, it's -1. It's going to be 5+, -2, it's going to be 6+. And then a gajillion different weapons, flamethrowers, light weapons, medium weapons, heavy weapons, and they're all just generic, right? So like you can just, whatever modeling you want to have, don't worry about it. Don't get crazy about the make and model of the gun on your 6mm mech. Rail weapons, AI missile systems, long-range systems, large missile batteries, energy swords, pistol gauntlets, electric fields, power weapons. Oh, you have Tesla fists in this, cable whips, basic weapons. And then ammo, flashlight rounds, hellfire rounds, EMF rounds, concussive rounds, rapid fire rounds, tracer rounds, and they basically give you a bunch of different things. So like position compromise from the tracer rounds means the next attack on it's going to be better. Flashettes give you AP. Hellfire gives you +1 weapon damage. Rapid fire rounds, when a weapon gets a 6 to hit, apply critical damage, and then make another attack with the weapon. And it doesn't stop, so it should chain. Yeah, so fun stuff there. And then upgrades, so like your armor Mark 1, armor Mark 2, reactive armor, VTOL thrusters, heat sinks, new heat check values, so it would add your heat check values. And then sensor arrays, heavy plating, core stabilizers, increase your heat limit by 2, a self-destruct system, active camo, an uplink, a targeting system, a nuclear core. When the mech explodes, it does as though it had heat 10. Thermal imaging. When you target a model with 5 more heat, gain +1 to your CS roll, your combat roll. Counter missiles. When hit with a ranged critical hit, negate the extra damage from the critical hit. Or a virus program once per game. You can activate this model. You may select an enemy model to infect, and the infected model only gets 1 action next turn. Very cool. Nice basic stuff, but it's a D20. So you can randomly generate all of these, right? D6 for ammo, and then it's D8s for weapons. So you can just be randomly, and I'm going to randomly do it. I'm going to dice the shit out of this and then convert it all. And they have ground forces. So a combat unit must consist of at least a minimum of 2 mechs if you're custom building. You can take 2 ground forces in the place of a mech in a combat unit, and ground forces may not have melee weapons because obviously they're tanks and stuff. And you get a generic ground unit here. It'd be speed 5, 4+ to hit, armor 6+, 4 hull points. They have a heat limit of 7. Oh, sorry, you do get heat limits on some of these. And a, what's PF again? Platforms. They have 3 platforms. Error 2, and they ignore terrain when making move actions. Infantry, right? They're going to cost you 10. You can take up to 3 infantry in the place of a mech. They can't ram. They don't explode. So even if you go to your heat limit, when a mech enemy or ground unit performs move actions and passes with a scene, roll a d6. On 1 to 3, they get flattened and die because they just get run over. And then we get some missions. Roll or pick a random mission. Place terrain. Your deployment zones are typically going to be randomized. You got destructible terrain rules. Special objectives. Before a game begins, after missions are selected, choose in secret 1 special objective and write it down. Completing a special objective rewards a roll on the random rewards table. So these are things you're basically bountying to do. And then you get the special rewards if you do it. So I like this because it's a double blind. Both of us are trying to do something we don't know about. And it's the way we unlock the cool Cracker Jacks during the game. This is a really good gimmick for extra, because it doesn't necessarily help you win, but it's the way, because it's a campaign game, you're going to be able to get like cool gubbins at the end of this. I do think that this is a very clever way of putting in secondaries. Loot tokens, just a 1-inch token. You have to pick them up. Players can optionally add D3+2 loot tokens to any map or scenario and roll to place them as an extra layer. And we got our missions. We got a Warzone mission. It's basically just a loot token, fight each other over the mission, where you can evac at the end of the game. During a game, a unit can evac to secure loot and return to safety, so you can walk up the board edge. Capture the cargo. Place a piece of cargo in the center of the map, and then the cargo can move. You can also evac the loot you grab off the cargo. Scavenge. Again, more loot counters. Burn to a crisp. Each player is attempting to escape the sun's radiation by entering bunkers while also securing supplies to ride out the storms. You're trying to get away from a solar storm. Hold the lines, a defense mission, and then a noble fight. I'm ready. How about you? The objective is to survive. The game goes until only 1 player is left. It's just a fight to the death. Each player may roll on the random rewards table for every model they put out of action. That's a fun one, the 6th one. And a good, starter one. And then after action. So this game does have a full campaign system, and it's intended to be played campaign-wise. So the casualties and scars of malls taken out of action, it's considered a casualty, and roll to see what happens. On a 1 to 2, roll again and consult the chart. On a 3 to 6, it's fine, and it just comes back to base unscathed. So 2 to 3, this is a 2d6 roll, it's just destroyed. And then you can get all these different damages off it. You can repair each one of these scars for 25 creds after the game. So you could have your heat limit go down, you could lose a weapon, get some minor cosmetic damage on a 7 or 8. Speed can go down. Critical core, add 1 to all your heat checks rolled. And then totaled. Platforms attached to the model are potentially lost forever. Roll a d6 for each platform equipped on the totaled model. On a 1 to 2, platform is destroyed from the model. On a 3 to 6, the platforms are covered for reuse and sale. You can scrap a mech for 2d6 credits after rolling a totaled roll. So that's the idea there, is that, yeah, might be totaled. We have our discoveries. These are the fun things you can find. And so the discoveries are not random rewards. These are just the simple recoveries. You gain credits equal to the combined value of the 2d6 roll. If you roll 2 or more of the same numbers during discoveries, you've located something interesting. And this is the Mordheim of it all. So when you're doing a discovery, you gain credits equal to the combined value of your dice. If you roll 2 or more of the same numbers, then the 2, 3, 4s, and 5s are all different things. So if you roll double ones, d6, single rolls are d6. 2 of a kind, gain 3d6. 3 of a kind, gain 25. And then 4 of a kind, gain a d10 times 10 if it's all ones, right? If it's single 2, the model gains +1 to their platform. 2 of a kind, a unit gains +1 random weapon for infantry. 3 of a kind, gain a random upgrade platform, right? Gain a flying vehicle. So you just start finding stuff to add to your bunker. If you get like 2 of a kind and it's a 6, roll again on the 2 of a kind chart. Then in a addition, perform a single discovery roll. When you're awarded with a random reward, roll on the chart below and consult the table on the following page. So random rewards could be d6 times 10 creds, special ammo, a melee weapon, a range weapon, an upgrade, or a unit. So a d6 unit, and this is all the random stuff. So like you could get like a mech with empty platforms, a mech with random platforms, right? A reroll, air combat units, reroll that same table, ground vehicles, and that's all of the upgrades, range weapons, and melee weapons from the core list, and all the ammos too. Then we got some history. The Age of Light from 2407 to 2420. The Age of Fire really starts to dim. So this is 50 years later-ish. And the Age of Darkness, 2454, the last days of light. And then 25 plus, civilization has crumbled, refugees have formed small settlements in the ruins of the old worlds. Some are prosperous than others, some finding a peace among the wreckage, picking through the wreckage of the past in an attempt to construct a future in this forsaken realm. And some basically like advanced rules. Ejecting pilots, modding your frames. So basically you could have a medium, a light, or a heavy frame. So the idea generally is when you build your mechs, they're all the same size. This doesn't cost anything. I'll definitely be using this extra, but depending on the size of your mechs, your starting profile is different. And then you start generating and assigning stuff to them afterwards. So I'll probably do like a light, 2 mediums, and a heavy as like my build. And then I'll roll randomly for everything that they have. Experience points, and for every 10 you get one of the following skills. You can just pick stuff. And then scrappers, when the models taken out of action, place a token next to it and you can scrap them. And then like an FAQ from people having played the game, and that's it. So like I said, nice, simple game, beautiful actually. I really like this record sheet for the game too. And a quick ref, like that's just 2 sheets because this game doesn't require a ton of quick reference, which I think is great. And that's it. Flames of Orion. We did it. We did another one. And just to quickly go back, there is, over on Ramshackle, some cool Flames of Orion mechs. If you want to check them out. Reaper's got tons, obviously, that you can go and cherry pick through if you want to look at some, as well as ground units and stuff as well, that are kind of neat. And if you're here in Canada and you want to order something locally, you can grab any of these beautiful heavy gear miniatures. There's a bajillion of them. I think I was showing, these are all northern models. These are some of the southern. The Black Mamba is a southern model, which is one of the classics. And I'll show you some of the Black Mambas. I love these guys. This is a Spitting Cobra. You know, $10 for a plastic frame of this guy. Yeah, cool as hell. So lots of options here for miniatures, obviously, that you can kit bash from. And if you want to grab some like ready-made single piece miniatures too, obviously Battletech stuff is great. And you can go check out the website to see Flames of Orion. And we're done. So there we go, guys. Another indie hour on the books. We did some mecha combat this time. I'm actually got some games planned. That's why I'm going to start building this on the Monday show. And getting my bunker done, my bunker all set up and randomly generated with the folks on the live stream, because I've got Tyler coming back. We just yesterday did 3 episodes of 1490 Doom, which you guys have also seen here on the Indie Hour. And we're doing this next, and we're going to alternate back and forth. So probably do 3 games of each. So we did 3 games of 1490 Doom. We're going to do 3 games of this next, and then back to probably 3 games of Fortnite. Like, we're just gonna basically just go back and forth and do all 6 of these. So we'll do all 6 missions of both games, and that will give you guys a good look and rundown of some of this indie content, which you can very easily play, because mech games are great because they paint up super fast and they're fun to do, and this is that same kind of idea. So yeah, that's the sort of like plan for getting this one on the table, and go check it out because you can check out the rulebook for free. I don't know if they're doing a late backer kick, but you can check out the Kickstarter as well and see if that's available if you want to try and get your hands on a print copy of the book as well, which is the new updated book with some additional like extras and stuff as well. And if you're watching this live on YouTube right now, in the week of, what's today? It'll be the week of the 23rd July. Then we are recording a new one of these. This is all patron produced, so they pick a game and we do an indie review of it, give it a spotlight, and they also nominate new games. So I actually threw this game on last week, just into the pile, and the patrons picked it. But we have a ton of interesting games on there right now. Let's see what's on the list right now, so you guys can hear about it. We have other games currently suggested, and you do have to be a GMG patron to suggest games. Just that is the privilege of those people. People are always putting games in the comments of the videos, but they don't get voted on. So if you just put them in the comments of the videos, become a GMG patron, you actually be able to nominate these things and pick them. We got Round of Fire, Morgue Stars, Saltland, Demigod, Deathmatch, Wristbreaker's Gambit, Spears of Blood, Last Drifters, 2D Delves, Factious Waste, Demon Blitz, Arcopunks and Hex Hitters, Cartoon Crash Course, Cazadores, Brimstone and Lead, Untitled Pirate Game, and World War Apocalypse currently on the list. So yeah, dive in and you can nominate some games as well, and we might see them on the Indie Hour. So big thanks for watching, everybody. We're done this one for the week, and we'll be back next week with another episode, another patron picked episode of the Indie Hour, and more games to play to come. So we'll see you then. It's not Ash.